Alrighty then. Welcome everyone. We are live on the Inside Line F1 podcast. On a Friday evening, most people go out to have a beer and they talk about Formula One. Well, that's exactly what Kunal and I would like to do, but we're multiple continents apart and multiple hours apart as well. So we can't have a beer, not in person at least, but we can have a chat that people chat over beer basically, which is Formula One, and particularly what's going to happen in the driver market. What is going to happen in the driver market is the question we're going to answer. Not for 27, because there might be too many changes back then, but 26. What is going to happen in 2026? Let's not wait around. Let's not beat around the bush, Kunal. I really want to pose the question. Let's just go for it. Max and Toto, they are they are like that couple who got caught at the Coldplay concert, right? They they really are. Private jets, yachts, all of them together in Sardinia. It's happening, is it not?
Wow. I'll put it this way. I'll be surprised even more so now if it doesn't happen. Okay, because yes, Jos Verstappen may be correct that Christian Horner is shredding the team to pieces and Red Bull Racing is losing staff and so on. But the truth is, Red Bull Racing was what it was because of Christian Horner. We've, of course, not had any other chances to test that. We will get a chance to see that. Laurent Mekier is very well experienced, very nice person, and I've had personal interactions with him to even say this out loud. But will Max want to be the part that builds Red Bull Racing back? That's going to be that question that he's going to ask, because the risk that it comes along with it is that risk that he's going to have a midfield car. He's not going to be battling the big names. And, Max has always said, I'm not going to be here till I'm 40 and 45 racing. So he knows he's got fewer sort of years to, live this up with. So I'll be very, very surprised. And I'd love to then know from Max why he's stayed along with Red Bull. Because, Max is, of course, he's a team player, he and GP and all of that. But I don't know if he's that kind of a team player where he'll put, the 6 years Michael Schumacher did before he could win a race, or whatever, 5 years, and before he could win a title. Max has done that. He's tasted blood that way. Okay, so if I would put it this way, if Max was not a multiple times world champion with Red Bull, he would have stuck around to rebuild them. But now that he's a multiple times world champion and he knows that he's the best that pretty much has ever been, or the top three or whatever, he's going to use that ace to get himself the fastest car. And that's the question. Nobody knows what's the fastest car for 2026.
And I'd like to go a few layers deeper into Max's decision because think about it. Money is not a factor at this point. It really isn't. Sure, like, will he get an extra raise by staying at Red Bull Racing? No, he's already signed a contract that goes up for a few more years. At Mercedes, he might earn more, but I don't think that's the main reason why he's going there. At this point in life, money is not a factor for Max Verstappen. Time is. He needs to raise a family. He wants to raise a family. He wants to drive at the Notchleifer when he is in peak physical condition. He wants to be chilling around, doing absolutely whatever he wants with no obligation. He wants to complete Formula One. There's no need to rebuild a team. The kind of decision making factors that he has, does it fit to stick around with the team, start from scratch, and hope that the new management can rebuild it, especially at a time when other lucrative offers are available and any team in the world would want you? Max is not looking at it in terms of an emotional decision. He's looking pragmatically and logically, putting himself first. And you're right, I'd be surprised if he goes anywhere else. And there's a reason behind that, isn't it, Kunal? Because aerodynamically, we can't say if Mercedes are going to be the best or not. But historically, what we do know is Mercedes are great at power units, not just the engine, but also the battery component, which is now an even more important part of Formula One engines from 2026.
That's right. Like we've kept saying this week in, week out, ever since, these 2026 regulations. The question is, can you really gamble on which team's going to be the quickest in 2026? In 2025, no one can. Okay. But maybe Max is gambling on which team will not be worse off. And there's a difference in the two. You cannot bet on who's going to be the quickest, okay? But can you sort of place a bet on which team could come off worse off? And, there's this logic, and it's a very funny logic because, in Indian weddings, as you know, as we've all been to several of them, I've had one, and that's the end of it. Uh, there's always this pressure to dance, what we call as a sangeet, or that musical evening where everyone gets
Yeah.
together, loud music, beautiful clothes, colors, all of that, and dance. And then everyone's dancing in a group, and what happens is there are great dancers, good dancers, and bad dancers. Now, I normally like to believe I fall in the bad dancer category, okay? But then I would tell myself, if I'm in a jungle and there's a tiger chasing all of us, I don't need to be the fastest. Okay, I just need to be faster than the slowest, if if you know what I mean. So Max has possibly seen enough to know that, oh my goodness, what on earth is happening at Red Bull, and will this bounce back? Will they recover? Because truth be told, there there are signs that it's just Max who's being able to drive the Red Bull off the track or whatever, not off the track, but drive that Red Bull into the points, and that's
Yeah.
what's happening. So my logic is that he's probably not sticking around. And very interesting. Somebody on Twitter was conversing with me. Um, the Verstappen camp is definitely involved in the sacking of Christian Horner, right?
Mm.
And I don't mean that they called up and they said, sack this guy, and they've sacked him. No, that's not what's happened. But they've been putting pressure at the right times, right places, maybe rightfully so, with the car not responding, people leaving. And maybe Christian's changed as a person, 20 years of winning, 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 different drivers, different regulations, different power unit manufacturers, but he's always been winning. So lots of factors that probably have sort of gone in. But Max Verstappen would know that, the replacements may not be immediately able to deliver a race winning car for me.
Especially at a time when there is a talent crunch in Formula One. There's a new Formula One team coming up. They are hiring people left, right, and center. There are teams like Alpine who are rebuilding their whole structure now, not having an engine, just rebuilding their aero department. That are also hiring people. There are people like Aston Martin who are setting up a gigantic factory with everything under one roof. They're hiring people. There's always people moving left, right, center. Audi's coming into Formula One. They're hiring some really key people too. Where do Red Bull Racing go next? Do they have the right set of people to get the team back on track? And will they be available on time to then have their impact immediately? That's what Otmar Safnauer was telling us on the Inside Line F1 podcast. Otmar, by the way, was the team principal of Alpine and previously the very, very successful Racing Point, and even before that, Force India Formula One team, the best of the rest. What did they call them? The
Pound for pound world
pound for
champion
pound
of,
world
yeah,
champion.
best
Exactly.
world, for every pound spent, maximum points earned, whatever, world champion, I would say. But I think it's crucial. We're almost 9 minutes in. Max Verstappen, Red Bull, Mercedes, we've sort of been in that conversation, but we need to decide who Mercedes will choose as his partner. And let's remember, if it wasn't for Max wanting to move, a lot of 2026 seats would probably just look the same, or a lot of 2025 seats would look the same for 2026, Soumil. That's my feeling. So the shakeup that we are probably going to see in 2026 is because Max is considering a move. That said, who do you think Mercedes is going to have next to Max Verstappen?
I think that question depends on how cruel Toto Wolff wants to be. So, Toto Wolff is going to go down in history as one of the cruelest people in Formula One, but also one of the most successful. Does he want to be cruel to a kid, or does he want to be cruel to a grown up who he has grown up?
With,
I,
yeah,
no, he has grown George Russell up in Formula One terms.
yeah,
He
yeah.
has, like, right from Formula Two, taking him to Williams. You all know the story. We don't need to reiterate it. How cruel will he be? I think legacy does not play a role in Toto Wolff's decision. Do you think so?
No, I don't think so. He's got to be pragmatic about it. And These are decisions made with not too much of heart, but a lot of mind and a lot of focus and surety. There will be people in Mercedes advising Toto Wolff as well. So while he will make the
Hmm.
decision, there will be people who will weigh in on their choices.
But any other podcast in the world will just tell you a driver and tell you why or what. I think we at the Inside Line love to go deeper and offer more perspective. So let's ask the question, on what basis will Toto Wolff decide whether he wants to go to George or Kimi? What are his parameters?
I would say his parameters are going to be based on how sure he is of Krishna's here. Hello, Krishna. But yeah, I would say his parameters are going to be based on how sure he is of his package in 2026. Okay. He knows that he's probably got the best lineup on the grid with Max and Russell out there. Okay. And I would say deep down inside, that just sounds like the best lineup Mercedes should have. Mercedes put Kimi there because they wanted to test him, but also because they knew that we don't have a good car this year. So whatever it is that we do, can we bed Kimi into Formula One and
Hmm.
then reap benefits? But that said, Toto will not leave a driver in the lurch, as we saw with Esteban Ocon, with now with Valtteri Bottas, with Mick Schumacher. I
Yeah.
think whichever driver that it may be, and like Krishna is saying, maybe loaning Kimi to Alpine for 2 years will work for everybody. And I think that could possibly be one of those solutions, situations that we could see happen as well, because it's like Carlos Sainz had to make way for Max Verstappen. Sorry, for Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. Well, Kimi Antonelli might have to make way for Max Verstappen at Mercedes. And it's just a situation. Would any team principal not want to sign Max Verstappen
Yeah.
in his prime? I think even Frederick Vasseur, if he was offered the opportunity, we'd have a Max versus Lewis at Ferrari. That's my
Yeah.
that's my feeling.
I think only time that it wouldn't happen is when Jean Todt and Ross Brawn were at the helm at Ferrari, because they were so clear that this is our number one. He spent all this time with us. He's been the one rallying the team around. We can't put anyone else. And Ferrari had the chance to sign some really good drivers. Mercedes now have the prime of Max Verstappen. Clearly, I to answer my own question and to build on what you said, you're right. I think it depends on how good 2026 should be for them, and also on how strong the competition is. I think that's one of the reasons why Toto Wolff will go one way or the other. And that's why I feel Max and George is going to be their pairing for 26, because Formula One is as close as it has ever been. Like, what is it? 6 tenths between P1 and P18 the last weekend at Silverstone in Q1? Sure, it might be bigger because in the new regulation season, these gaps are exacerbated. But I suppose that's when you need a driver even more so to close up on the gaps that already exist. And in that case, if I'm a team principal, which I'm not, but if I am a team principal, I just want to go for the very best. And a lot of you might be thinking, will it work out? Two alphas in one team. How does it work out? They've had history in the past. One famously said to the other that they want to put their head on the wall upside down. Like, sure, but it's very clear, Kunal. Formula One has proven time and time again that emotions have to sit aside when there is money to be made and championships to be won.
Absolutely. I think, Russell versus Verstappen and Mercedes would probably not be as difficult for Max to handle, or Toto to handle, as, say, Rosberg versus Hamilton that happened for 14, 15, 16, those 3 seasons. And, well, if you're a
Because
racing
actually,
team,
to
yeah,
add to that, also because Max is secure. At that time, Lewis and Nico both weren't.
yeah.
So,
And Toto's learned from it. They've moved on. It's almost 10 years since Nico Rosberg actually won the world championship as well. Time flies. But my point also is that, listen, you don't build a really super fast car and then say, I'm not going to put the two best drivers because they will kill each other on track and I won't be able to handle it. No, there will be situations, and you're just supposed to have frameworks, have what was the word they had? They had an engagement agreement, right? They had
engagement
rules of
agreement.
engagement. That's what they call it at Mercedes. And you just make sure that the drivers fall in line. And then, of course, uh, I think I think the two drivers at McLaren are just very goody goody with each other, and they sort of fall in line. But that doesn't mean that
Yeah.
Max is the type who will fall in line. But I would, the counter thought to this is, if you've got a Kimi and you really think he's good, wouldn't it be amazing to have Kimi next to Max Verstappen, learning from Max Verstappen, while sort of officially passing on the baton? So it's a difficult to call situation, but I'll pick on something you said, how quick the car is and how good the competition is, because whatever you say, Ferrari and Lewis and Leclerc, great combo. They are
Hmm.
second in the constructors championship this year without having won a race. Why? Because both drivers are scoring points. Okay, next year, if the Mercedes power unit is the class of the field as it is expected to be, Alpine will be having that unit, Williams will be having that unit, McLaren is going to have that unit as well. So
Oh.
if Mercedes knows that they have to go up against some of their own customer teams, they need two of their best drivers there. So I think the next few races we will see. It's Max's half home race in Spa, well, as is Lando Norris, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they've got lineages everywhere. Hungaroring is, I would say, my home race. I love Budapest, and then we just come to Sunfoot after that. So we will probably see a lot of these things moving up. But yeah, in the short term, maybe George versus Russell. Sorry, George versus Max Verstappen. My goodness, and then the best driver actually stays on till whenever Kimi's getting ready to go back to Mercedes.
Yeah, this is where I agree with Krishna. But I think we're both in agreement, Kunal and I. I think Max and George for Mercedes 2026. It makes sense. And I'll also go to why George. And this is when we move on to Red Bull Racing, because we obviously have to answer the question of how do you fill the void that Max Verstappen leaves. But why George is also because you can't let a driver of the caliber of George Russell slip away that easily. He's an asset. He's an asset to any team he goes to. And imagine if he lands up at the competition. Things have happened before, but knowing Toto Wolff and how he treats drivers and when he lets them go, yeah, he probably wouldn't let that happen. Like Michael, because he retired. Valtteri, end of value. George was picked up right when he was at his peak, at his prime. I don't think he's going to drop him that easily. Which then begs the question, Red Bull Racing have an enormous void to fill. Because if they are indeed losing Max Verstappen, which seems to be the case now, who do they fill that gap with? And they could go the Red Bull route, promoting talent internally. They could go the external route, which Christian Horner looked increasingly to favor in the last few years. There are rumors circling. Isaac Hadjar is the driver who will be called up, but there is another big question. Isaac Hadjar with who? Is Yuki going to be given another chance? Is there an external hire on the cards? How do you see this happening, Kunal?
I will just take one question from Krishna that's come. Little naive question. I don't think any question is naive. I think they're all valid. Max to Aston, out of question. I believe so. I believe Aston, and we'll get to Aston much later, but I believe Aston is not the one that is actively in conversations there with the Max Verstappen camp. Would they want him? Yes. Does he want them? I don't think so. I think he's probably sniffed around, tried to understand what's what. But again, it's a team on the rebuild and putting lots of people, processes, technology together. So I think yes, Adrian Newey in the new regulations is extremely exciting, but again, it all depends what your power unit is going to do next year. Even though F1 or the FIA has said we'll help with equalization metrics and so on, but I think it's a little out of question. But going back to Red Bull Racing, Soumil, if George Russell is out of Mercedes, where could Toto Wolff actually place him? And I don't think there's another Mercedes
No.
team that he could place him at, apart from say Alpine. But would George Russell want to go to Alpine?
I think
Never.
it's
It's
it's too low for his talent.
Yeah, and again, it's a team that's been completely out of shape for the last several seasons. They've had more team principals go in and out of the door than drivers and so on. And even though they'll have a Mercedes power unit, just because you have a Mercedes power unit doesn't mean you're going to be up there. Of course, it makes one key, takes one thing equation out of there. But yeah, so my reading is that George will then have no option but to take up Red Bull Racing as it would come. And then it would be George with Isaac Hadjar at Red Bull Racing. And in case George Russell is not available for whatever reason, because George stays on at Mercedes and then Kimi Antonelli goes to Alpine, I think Red Bull will finally have Nico Hülkenberg in that car along with Isaac Hadjar. And I think Hadjar will then be given the chance to sort of, lead the team in the future. But I think they will go with that one solid driver who's able to, bank in those, uh, s- you know, really strong performances, even if they're not super strong as Max is because Max is not replaceable. And that's also one of the reasons why maybe Christian was asked to go, because yes, it's a one team, one driver, one car, one person team, everything you call it. But that's what they realized that Formula One doesn't need. Formula One needs you to have two drivers. What is Red Bull's succession plan? And maybe Christian had no succession plan, and that's what we're discussing essentially.
Isaac Hadjar leading a team in his second Formula One season. Red Bull gives you wings. Yes. And I'm experiencing that personally too. They do give you wings. They place a lot of responsibility on you and give you the freedom to deliver, which is phenomenal if you can cope up with it. But I fear that might be asking a bit too much from an objective standpoint.
Yeah, well, I don't know who else, or maybe they'll.
That also depends on where Red Bull also are, right?
But I
Maybe the
think,
pressure is not that high next year.
yeah, but that doesn't mean they can put an Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson there, or Hadjar and Lindblad there, or Hadjar and Sunoda there. I don't think so, because eventually they also need to keep scoring points. They need to maximize their package wherever on the pecking order they might be. They need somebody with experience to tell them what the hell is happening in the car. They've gotten rid of Checo Perez and Daniel Ricciardo. So two really experienced drivers from the Red Bull garages are out. They will have to be out in the market shopping for someone. Is it Sebastian Buemi they bring back to Formula One?
Oh, I love that. He's actually
I
been very sharp lately,
yeah, but
driving in WEC.
I don't think that's happening. So that's my feeling. So Red Bull is stuck with no team principal, no star driver if Max was to go as well. And my mind still wonders, will Max really take that gamble on 26? And I know I explained this with a tiger theory. To me, it makes no sense. If that Red Bull turns out to be a really quick car next year and he's moved to Mercedes, he'll look absolutely foolish.
Hmm.
But I think he knows
Would
enough.
he? Would he?
I think so, right?
I don't. I think you have to evaluate a decision based on the factors you had at the time. And right now, Verstappen has it all. Clip this moment. I know. I know we're going to be. I know all of you watching. Pankit, Krishna, Uttara is also along with us. I know everyone's going to look back and going to say, "You idiots! You said Maximus series was a good decision." But is that not the case? You can only evaluate it based on what factors you have. And right now, for Red Bull Racing, going for an experienced driver does also seem like a very smart idea. I'm just confused on where they go because Checo is not an option, clearly. You don't go back to your exes, clearly. Valtteri Bottas is demanded by two Formula One teams actively, uh, Alpine and Cadillac. Who else? Who else is the.
Okay,
You
let's
said on.
yeah,
Yeah. No, wait.
go
Do
for
we
it.
want to answer the questions first or the opinions?
No,
Or
you say, you go for what you're saying. Yeah,
so Kunal on Fancode's Gearbox podcast said that Nico Hülkenberg might be a great option for Red Bull Racing. I want to dig deeper, firstly, into the possibility of it. Do you think it's possible because he has a contract at Sauber?
of
Like, is
course it's possible. I mean, it's a contract. If they could buy Checo out of his contract, what's a contract at, you know, Nico wants to be the first German driver for the German team, Audi, etc., etc. And Red Bull, if they are actually a midfield team without Max Verstappen, as everyone loves to say, and so do the numbers support it, then they need somebody who's a solid midfield driver able to score the points, and that's where I think there's almost no one better than Nico Hülkenberg. But let's look a little away. There is Alexander Albon with high roots, who's doing fantastically well. His manager and friend Jacques Hectal Smith was on our show a couple of weeks ago. Could it be Carlos Sainz who finally goes back? And you know what happens is Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon would love to go to Red Bull, but at this stage of their career, they will be betting, saying, with James Vowles, such an amazing team principal, and the Mercedes power unit, and everything resetting, why will I take a chance on my career in 2026? So Red Bull could be in that situation where finding a replacement for Max might not be as easy. And now I'm going to take Punkit's point because this is
Yeah.
very, very interesting. This is a lot of narratives. Punkit says Red Bull without Max might actually be a good thing. They might be able to finally build a car that is good overall for one, instead of being good for one driver. After all, F1's a team sport. And Punkit, my two point reply to this is engineers don't build a car for one driver. They build a car that they believe is the fastest formula to the formula of Formula One. It just so happens that you give Max any car, he's able to drive the wheels of it. That's what's literally happening. And then he's able to, he's got, does he have very extreme setup choices? Yes, he does. Does that push the team in a particular direction? Of course it does, because here's a driver who's able to really drive this car very fast. So there is a difference in designing a car just for one driver, which almost doesn't happen, versus designing a fast car and making it go faster with your driver inputs and preferences and choices. And I think that's the latter is where Max usually happens to be. And talking of Max, Krishna is asking, don't you think Red Bull needs a superstar figure to sell merchandise and advertisements? And that's a beautiful
Yeah.
point. That's a beautiful point. Okay, because I was in a very beautiful meeting with a very senior Red Bull figure, and I was told one point. I was told, and I'm figuratively now for everyone seeing this on audio or hearing on audio. There was a can put on the table, and this is the hero of Red Bull racing, and the person was pointing to the can. And that's when I realized that actually Sebastian Vettel's come and gone, Ricardo's come and gone, Perez has come and gone. Red Bull is not about selling merchandise and advertisements. They're about defying uh, all incumbent and all, what do you say? How do I put it? They're about defying every sport they get into, defying laws of physics, defying laws of authority. Everything that Red Bull's done, even in Formula One, has been very un-Formula One like, if you were to sort of call it that. So I don't think they're going to be afraid about not having a superstar. To be frank, and hello, exoteric. It's always good to have you.
But I want to build upon that because now that I see the world of Red Bull a little differently by being on the inside, I'm hearing globally that the company wants to be seen more out there. That Red Bull has always been very subtle in their ways. They've always let their experiences and let their actions do the talking. But this is a different era. The brand globally wants to sell more cans. They globally need to pay out there. And we saw the shift for the first time in the budget cap era when they signed on Sergio Perez. And a big part of why, of course, apart from the on track stuff, was also the sponsorship. You have to value that. So I'm not saying that Red Bull will look a certain way, but what they do decide will reveal a lot on how they see themselves as well, because it's a new era in Formula One. Like there's a lot of brand value riding on top of it, not just for Red Bull, but also for Ford. And the team needs to be successful. So that's parameter number one. But surely in a conversation like this, sponsorship, brand value, I think it does make an impact. Although it's not point number one. The first question they
Yeah.
ask is he fast? But if he is fast, and if they both are equally fast, they will start considering that too.
So I'm gonna explain what you just said with my experiences, right? I was, of course, there is a very wonderful driver in Indy Next, Dennis Hauger, former Formula 3 champion, did about 3+ seasons in Formula 2. Fantastic guy. I've had several conversations with him and his manager Harald Heusmann and his father. And I was actually in lots of conversations with Dr. Marco on understanding, because Dennis Hauger is a sensation in Norway. Okay, for probably one of the most famous drivers in the world, despite not having driven in Formula One. Let me just put it that way. Okay, and one of the things Dr. Marcos said was, and of course, I don't mean to quote him, but that was what the conversation was, because we spoke of Scott Speed and we spoke of some of those American drivers actually came into the Red Bull life early in Formula One, and he said sometimes it's just a very large market and we got to pick a driver, but for a driver that's actually coming from a smaller market, talent has to go that much further for us to make that decision.
Hmm.
Okay, so just adding some weightage to what you just said. But yeah, so I think Red Bull will probably get a George Russell. If they get a George Russell, they'll decide if it's Isaac Hadjar. If they don't get a Russell, they will look at a Hulkenberg who might still be willing to take the risk with Red Bull. Then say Alexander Albon and Carlos Sainz. That's just my reading.
Yeah, I don't know if Red Bull can go for Hulkenberg. My grid would be my grid would be Isaac Hadjar and Yuki Tsunoda. Because
Wow, you don't like
why?
them.
What my only question, which I want all of you folks to also play along with, is why do you sack Yuki Tsunoda now? Why now? Like there's you at a time when you need stability in your team, something for continuity. Why do you sack the only element that can give you stability from a driving standpoint? And you're going to sack him for being bad at a car that everyone has been bad at? Sure, he's been worse than Sergio, but are you going to go back to Sergio? Stay with the incumbent. If he's really that bad, Arvid's along, Liam's along as well. By that point, Pepe Marti is also going to get much better. So maybe you can consider putting him or any other Red Bull Junior who's doing very well into Formula One too, because they're constantly building him up. So I feel there's no point in sacking Yuki Tsunoda. There's why? Why now? If you had to sack him, now's probably the worst time, in my opinion.
But that's unfortunate part of being a Red Bull racing driver, right? Krishna is asking, but Yuki is struggling. No, well, the truth is, yes, he is. Let's just put it out there. Okay, I think he started off extremely well, and people thought, okay, wow, this is looking great, and he might just be the answer. But he's been a little off the last few rounds. Helmut Marcos, of course, admitted that Red Bull's been trying a few different things, and a lot of the blame for Yuki not doing well is also because of the very fact that they've been sort of testing different setups and different what do you say different components on his car just to get him just to get him more comfortable in that Red Bull racing car next to Max. So I would say it's just Yuki's not gotten sacked exoteric. No, we don't mean to say that. Okay. There are some rumors that always go around it. Okay. But yeah, it's just down to what it is. But I don't think it's like this, Sommel. Yes, he's done well in I would say Alpha Tauri. I was going to say is Toro Rosso, Racing Bulls, whatever. But in Red Bull Racing, he's not done well. Okay. And that's just unfortunately where I would say Red Bull Racing lies as as a team. And then if you don't do well at Red Bull Racing, you go. That's what happened to Alex Albon. That's what happened to Pierre Gasly
Well,
as well.
that was Christian Horner's Red Bull Racing. Is Laurent Mekies' Red Bull Racing going to be different?
That's a very good point because Laurent Mekies has actually uh, worked with Yuki Tsunoda. So yeah, let's see.
We have no reference. We have no marker. For once, we do not know. And that is beautiful. Uh, Krishna has asked, what do you guys think of Arvid? Arvid is so recently we haven't been able to follow up. I think it's a good time to check up with Dr. Marco again. Start of the year though, very good things to say. What we do know about his personality is that he's got the drive to be a Formula One driver from a very young age. Sundaram and I were lucky enough to speak to Arvid in depth at the BIC, thanks to Red Bull India. And we got to speak to him a lot about his development, about his dreams, about the sacrifices, about what makes him want to chase that Formula One dream. There are very few 17-year-olds who you can look in the eye and be like, this guy knows what he wants. Arvid
Hmm.
knows what he wants. And this year in Formula 2, we've been seeing that as well. So it's certain he's coming in. I think like all of us do decide, Kunal, all of us do wait for the performances in Formula One to make a judgment. Because whatever happens beforehand is just one part of your chapter. Getting into Formula One, that's a totally different book. And for Arvid, what we think of him now doesn't really matter as much, does it?
No, it doesn't. And, but I must say, in Formula 2, he's been one of the standout drivers. He's made a few mistakes, but that's what you race at Formula 2 for, to make all your mistakes as you go. And just one word on Yuki, there is talk that he could be at Aston Martin, but I doubt that's going to happen just because Honda's there. But has Yuki done enough to have the interest from, say, Haas or Cadillac for that matter, because those are also rumors out there. I think Yuki's probably not done enough to get a say elsewhere. So if he leaves Red Bull, I just get a feeling he might not get picked elsewhere. And one of the reasons is the current drivers at Haas, Behrman and Ocon, are doing very well. The current drivers at
Hmm.
Williams, Albon, Sainz, are actually a dream partnership. They're doing very well. So it's more about, even if Yuki's done well, the current drivers, the incumbent drivers of the current teams are actually doing well for that team as well. Okay, so that's just where it is with Red Bull. But we've done Red Bull, we've done Racing Bulls, Arvid Lindblad,
You've
Liam
only
Lawson.
done two teams,
Yeah,
three teams now, technically.
yeah, and I
That
think I think Liam Lawson will sort of get more of a rope if the uncertainty continues. And Pepe Marti and stuff. I think there's a bit of a time. I think I've seen better Red Bull juniors before, and they've just not gotten a chance. So it's about
names.
maybe. I'm not going to name them, but okay. I mean, anyway, how does that matter? Let's go to Cadillac.
We could, guys. This is why we love speaking to you, and this is why a lot of you love us as well. We can spend time talking about one team for 30 minutes. We have to restrict ourselves. In 37 minutes, normally the rest of the world would have told us you need to be done with all 10 teams. We're done with three. And you're engaging and you're having fun. So thank you for joining along. Cadillac. Cadillac. Cadillac, their team principal, Graham Loudon, who has been comparing the Cadillac operation to that of the Apollo mission, where they sent astronauts to space by operating at multiple locations, has said that they will prioritize experience, which clearly means Checo Perez nailed down. Of course, the American market, North American face, Hispanic heritage as well, proven in Formula One, brings sponsors, brings experience. If I was Graham Loudon, I would sign him right away. I
Yeah,
think,
and
yeah,
and Jonathan Wheatley literally just said that he trusts Checo Perez's pace and that Perez is a super quick driver. He literally just said that. I think Perez is definitely there. I also get a feeling they might get an American driver as a third driver, sort of groom him before giving a full time seat. Purely because yes, American team, American ownership, but the minute you put an American driver, you're putting yourself and your driver out there in your first time. Okay, Exoteric is saying, I've got time, rant on, fellas. Okay.
love you, man.
In your first season in Formula One, you don't want to be known as the American team with American sponsors, American heritage, whatever, that did not do well. You want to be known as an American team that came and beat the other incumbent American team and several other midfielders. That's the storyline, right? And will you get that with an Alex Palou or a Colton Horta? Again,
Yes,
it's
they're incredible. They're
they
great
are
drivers.
they are. I'm not doubting at all. Okay, Pankaj is saying Perez and Bottas seems very likely. Maybe Perez and Zhou Guanyu if the Chinese market continues to appeal, which they always do, or Perez and Mick Schumacher if Toto Wolff is able to swing some favors as well. Uh, but I get, I think Bottas will also be considered very highly if he's not going to Alpine already, because Bottas has the experience of racing Ferrari power units, which he did at Sauber, Alfa Romeo, whatever we call them. So I think they will get an American driver as a third driver to sort of take on the team a year or two later. Because as much as Alex Palou and Colton Herta are great drivers, Soumil, Formula One's a different beast in terms of tech, in terms of
Hmm.
atmosphere. And I would always look at it this way: Red Bull put Max Verstappen at Toro Rosso first before bringing him to Red Bull so that they don't expose him. What is happening to Kimi Antonelli is we are all like, let's be patient. It's only 12 seasons. Let's 12 races. Let's be patient. So, and I know this from my time at Force India. There was this pressure to have an Indian driver always. And VJM said one thing: if putting an Indian driver gives me a couple of tenths extra, and gets me points, I will put the Indian driver. And I
Love him for
hope,
that.
yeah, and I hope that's the philosophy that Cadillac is bringing to the table as well. Yes, you will have the chance to put an American driver, but please groom him or her before you do that. Because you don't want Alex Palou to be so many other American drivers who've come and gone and failed in Formula One, because that's not the story the American Formula One team wants to stand for.
Well,
They want to succeed with an American driver.
but the thing is, times are different. I think Palo, firstly, we classify him as an American driver because he's won IndyCar and
Yeah,
the Indy 500. He's actually Spanish
and races them. Yeah,
and
exactly.
races there. Exactly. But Palo and Pato O'Ward and Colton Herta have actually had extensive Formula One programs. Palo and Pato O'Ward definitely have. Colton Herta, if the rumors are correct, actually tested for Sauber in their sim when the rumors were that Andretti were about to buy them, and went quicker than Kimi Antonelli and Antonio Giovinazzi. Now, quicker is one thing. As Kunal mentioned, you need to adapt to the tech, the pressure, the politics. I firmly believe, and maybe I may sound like an idiot here, but that kid has it. He's beaten the best of the very best. The likes of Joseph Newgarden, who I believe will also be incredible in Formula. I could go name a million names. Scott Dixon, including one willpower. There's a lot. But the point is, it depends on where Andretti see themselves and how serious they want to be as a Formula One team. Ultimately, the fight is to see who is the real American. Not making a Hulk Hogan reference here. And the real American will be the one who outperforms the other person. And I believe at this point, experience matters, which is why I'm not even going for a Jack Crawford in my lineup, who's currently in Formula 2. And to add to your point about the Red Bull Juniors, I think I've seen better drivers at a junior level than Jack. I think he has more time. He's great, but needs more time. But that number two seat, I would ideally like to go for Valtteri Bottas. But then the question is on Valtteri. Does he want to accept the contract at Alpine, where they clearly want him? And does he want to go for a Mercedes engine? Or does he feel that he has enough years left to go for another rebuild where he can make a little more money, but he'll have to fight with another person and get the team from the ground up?
A Red Bull and a Mercedes discard racing at Cadillac. Wouldn't that be some way of making the headlines for Cadillac? If Bottas takes Cadillac, Punkit is then saying Mick Schumacher looks more likely for Alpine as he's with them in VEC, the World Endurance Championship, already, and he has Toto's backing as well. And that's interesting, right? Because Alpine know what he can do in the WEC car. He's been doing very very well.
Hmm.
And this is not me just saying it; it's data. It's a lot of journalists who cover WEC as well. And crucially, Schumacher surname being reunited with a Briatore surname, led by maybe Christian Horner. Who knows what that could give us?
Are we dreaming? Has any driver left for WEC and come back to Formula One?
Well, Fernando Alonso.
Yes, that's one who don't count. Uh, I can't think of one.
Anyway, let's move on. What have we got?
No, 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 no. Who
No.
are you picking? Who are you picking
For who?
for Cadillac? Perez is one.
I would say Perez and Schumacher, or Perez and Bottas. It's either one of the two, but Perez is definitely one. Yeah, and then I think Schumacher's coming back on the 2026 grid. That's my feeling.
Wow. I'll be amazed. I'll be amazed. Krishna says, to be honest, I don't see any future for Cadillac. First 2 years, obviously, huge learning curve. And third year, with their own GM engines, huge learning curve there again. Valid. Valid. Absolutely valid. Someone has to take the plunge, though. Someone has to. Some driver has to. So we'll find out who that is.
Yeah. Okay. What have we got? Alpine?
Yeah,
We
yeah. I'm
just we
going.
just we just pretty much spoke
Yeah,
Alpine as well. Go
Pierre
for it.
Gasly and Valtteri Bottas for me.
They might just have that lineup from after the summer break for all we know. The reason why I don't think the change is going to be that easy is because Alpine has announced a fair bit of Argentinian sponsors. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that's all linked with Franco being in the car. So will Franco get sufficient time or no is the question. And in conversations like these, I tend not to bring data that in so many races, Franco was, on the pace with Albon last year. This year he's been a tenth of Gasly. The truth is, everybody eventually is a part of the politics. Yeah, driver seats are all political,
Yeah.
right? And whether you stick on or no is where the sporting aspect comes in, right? But I think now the teams that we are going to go to are going to be the easy ones, or I don't know.
We can brush past in 7 minutes and go to bed
Yeah.
very, very quickly. Yeah, because 40. You know what? I think we've timed this episode very well. So I'll give you an insight on our struggles here at the Inside Line F1 podcast. Kunal and I, and Sundaram as well. Whenever we have him, we love to ramble on. We love to ramble on. We can go on for 120 minutes about the same topic. And we're normally thinking 10 minutes for each team. Is that fine? Exoteric says, I've got time, rant on, fellas. We could. But I think we've paced this well. We didn't set a 1 hour limit, but that's normally what we gravitate towards. 45 minutes for the four most important teams. Five. Now we can go for where the stability is. Let's just go for a quick yes or no. Are we going to have the same lineup or not? Williams, yes or no? Yes.
No.
Oh, no. You're saying
I I
my beloved Carlos is not moving anywhere, by the way.
I just get a feeling that he might move to Red Bull. He might take that punt on Red Bull.
Okay. Well then. Well then. Is
And
there
then, yeah,
an exit clause? There always is an exit clause.
always.
Would James Vowles be. No, let me add this up. James Vowles is very honest, open, clear in communication. James Vowles has scouted Carlos Sainz well before it was announced that Lewis was joining Ferrari. So there's clearly depth in that relationship. It's not a shallow one. You're telling me that Carlos is likely to consider that option.
I don't know. Somebody's got to take that punt on Red Bull. Somebody. Could it be Sainz? I don't know. Just saying. And if it is Sainz, then could the Williams seat open up for, I don't know, Bottas or Mick Schumacher? Although, James Howell said that silly thing about Mick Schumacher when he did a couple of years ago or last year, and the Schumacher family was a little too upset with him, and he came back and clarified what he did. So maybe then it is Bottas and Albon at Williams again. Who knows? And then wouldn't that be amazing? A Red
I
Bull and a Mercedes Junior again.
Exactly. But somewhere in this discussion, a thought has popped up in my head that Kevin Magnussen isn't done with Formula One. Look at how important Perez and Bottas are turning out to be in our decision making framework here. Kevin Magnussen is not done. I really think he's not done.
Which means, could he be, which is the next team, which would have also been yes, no, Gabriel Bortoleto and Nico Hülkenberg at Sauber? No.
Oh, oh,
I think Bortoleto might continue.
yeah.
Okay. Exoteric is saying signs of Red Bull. No way, dude. That's a hot take. Well, you never know. He's always wanted to be a Red Bull. The Red Bull don't mind the two drivers, Sainz and Verstappen together. They mind Sainz Senior and Verstappen Senior together. That's usually the talk of the paddock. But yeah, I think Sauber maybe if Hulkenberg gets that Red Bull opportunity. I don't know. Sainz and could it be Sainz and Hulkenberg at Red Bull if they need that experience and stability, and then Hadjar and Lindblad or Hadjar and whatever I think that's what's probably going to happen at Red Bull. That if Nico Hulkenberg goes, in which case maybe Magnussen gets an opportunity to be back in Formula One at some point. Could you imagine just by opening up two seats and just by getting Max to stir the pot? Every team might just get impacted, and suddenly you're looking at drivers who've said, that's it, I'm done with F1. Because who else could Sauber hire?
Yeah.
If Perez is gone, Bottas is gone, who? And Daniel Ricciardo doesn't want to race. Who?
Who? Who have we got left? Are there any good drivers who have recently left the sport apart from Kevin Magnussen who are available? No.
And
who's
remember, this is going to be leading the Audi entry, so you
yeah.
can't just go to F2 and pick a driver. And
Ah,
Sebastian Vettel doesn't want to be back into Formula One either. Is this where Mick Schumacher comes in?
could be. Oh, German driver, German team. Yes, that's what they've always wanted. Audi. Yes, it's a possibility. I'm going to be a nerd here,
Two Formula
and
Two champions in leading Audi.
that'd be great. That'd be. I think they need experience more than anyone too. But if they need experience, I'm going to throw a name out there who's not a long shot. It might be hard to convince him, but because he's too nice. But Neil Jani, a driver who we all love it. Neil Jani, Le Mans winner for Porsche, always there. Audi engine development driver as well. Someone who we know and love very personally here in India because he's always here back for the Indian Racing League all the time. One of the most kind-hearted people in all of motorsport, and I think he'd be someone who would want to finish his business in Formula One. Just to, I'm dreaming here. I'm daydreaming.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. You
but
you you're,
seriously,
you're night dreaming. It's whatever 1 o'clock India time. But Pranav is saying, sorry, joined late. Have you talked about Max? We've spoken the first 25 minutes about Max. Pranav, you're welcome to go back and either agree or disagree or have your own view on what's actually happening with Max Verstappen.
yeah.
What's
Tell
next?
us.
Now I
Tell.
think we're into yes no territory, Somal.
Yes, no territory. Yeah, proper, proper, proper. Who do we have next? We have
Ferrari.
Ferrari. Yes, same, same,
Yeah, I think so. I think
same.
Hamilton, Leclerc at Ferrari. Okay, there we go. McLaren, Piastri, Norris.
Well, that depends on how fiery the end of the season is going to be. Hey, you know what? Sorry, just now that we've said McLaren, in this mix, watch out for Alex Dunn. Seriously, watch out for Alex Dunn. He might not be at McLaren next year. He might not be at a Cadillac next year. But knowing how much space we have on the Formula One grid and knowing how impressive his FP1 run was, do you think he'd be around? He looks prepared. He was good. He was really good.
Yeah, I think he'll be around. He'll probably have a third driver role because when you speak of Alex Dunn, I'm also reminded of Pramit is saying hello. But yeah, I'm also reminded of Jack Doohan. Let's remember he's also
Oh
been a part of the
yeah,
2025
oh
season. So
yeah,
while we did say who could Sauber sign, there are a few drivers that might just get lucky because the experienced ones are all taken. Pranav is asking question, what do you think will be the driver lineup of Cadillac? Go back a few minutes. We've actually discussed Cadillac as well. And when do you think we can see Kush Maini in F1? Is it possible? Yes, it is possible. He just needs a phenomenal season in Formula 2 this year, hands down.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then Aston Martin. Is it
Oh
Alonso
God,
Stroll?
oh God. Sorry, but my only question is when will they start becoming a serious Formula One team? When?
Are they
when
not one? You just
are
hired
they?
Adrian Newey, expanded all the facilities, state of art wind tunnel, billions of dollars that they've been putting in. Andy Cowell is there. What do you mean, serious Formula One team?
We know that in Formula One every tenth matters. Without being very rude, I think they're dropping quite a few tenths in one seat.
And the driver who finished what sixth or seventh or eighth in Silverstone said this car's a shit box after the race, and everyone's got pissed with that. Anyway, Fernando Alonso's contract is till end of next year, and Lance Stroll's contract is beyond multi-year, beyond
To
2026.
infinity and beyond, as Buzz Lightyear
Yeah.
used to say.
From it, where do you see Perez next year? I think it's going to be Cadillac, but go back a few minutes, you'll probably hear us there as well. And Soumil, interestingly, when the previous round of silly season actually happened, driver contracts were being most driver contracts are till the end of 2026, and I actually can tell you there's Bortoleto, Carlos Sainz, Beman, Ocon, Albin, Hulkenberg, Alonso, you name it, and most drivers are till 26 because the assumption was we'll do 1 year. We'll do 1 year into the new regulations before we actually figure what else. We'll just continue with the experience we have. But with Max stirring the pot with the whole Mercedes conversation, you never know where it goes. But yeah, Pranav is saying Lance Stroll is the best driver in the grid. How dare you talk shit about him with
Who said I was talking shit about Lance Stroll? Did I say names? Did I drop names? Come on, assumptions. Shh.
Okay, what else do we have as we bring this stream to a close? Uh,
Viraj's comment: does Lance have a job for life at Aston Martin, like some people have tenure? Well, government employees, they don't have an end date on their contract.
Nor do employees at family businesses.
Just
But
saying.
Otmar Safnauer had said that Lance has a long contract with the team, which keeps getting extended as it goes. Maybe it doesn't even get extended. Maybe he doesn't even have a contract. He's
Yeah.
just there till he, calls Papa. And anyway, sorry, we
I'm,
should
I'm,
not
I'm,
digress.
I'm,
Yeah, let's
I'm
go
I'm
to Haas,
intrigued.
last team,
No, 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 no,
11th
no, no,
team.
no, no, no. Let's not. Because we still have 5 minutes till the end of the stream. Genuine thought, because it's 1 o'clock in the night here in India, and this is the time when we ramble about stuff like this. How does Lance Stroll manage his expenditures? Does he like get paid by the Aston Martin team? Does he do his own taxes? Does someone do it for him? Is it all company dividends that flow towards him, or what? Like his own wallet? Is it billed as pocket money, or is it billed as Formula One? Like I don't. How does he do that? I'm genuinely very intrigued by it. I'm sure he must be paid a certain amount just to show that it's a certain amount, right?
Of course, yeah, of course he's
Yeah.
got a contract, and of course of course he's got the regular contract as every driver, fixed fee every time you score points, every time you have a podium, some bonuses. Of course, they treat him as that. Shitman has saying top five drivers from the grid in the wet. I'd be surprised if that does not have Lance. Let's just shit on that shit, man. Let's just do that. Sorry, I'm just using your name to make fun, but top five drivers in the wet. Sommel, Lewis Hamilton, but before
No.
that, Max Verstappen.
Yes.
Okay. Who else?
Max Lewis.
Nico Hülkenberg.
Hmm. Okay. So what makes you a good driver in the wet? Judgment.
Skill,
S-
speed.
Yeah.
Fernando Alonso,
Fernando Alonso. Great in the wet.
Charles Leclerc.
Do you remember a great Leclerc wet drive?
Of course, there is one. And then even Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, I suppose it's experience that counts in a case like this. But I, for the life of me, don't remember a Leclerc wet drive. Sorry, I'm getting older.
Pramit is then counter questioning shit, man, saying, why is he only good in the rain?
Well, you know what? There's a logical answer to that question. Track time. And growing up, he had a lot more track time than all the others did. So that, that's
Yeah.
part of the reason why.
Anyway, Haas, 11th team, 2.5 minutes to go. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Yes, no.
Same,
Behrman, Ocon.
same. They'd be stupid to change, and it's not in the DNA of us to change very often too. So,
Yeah. What'll
oh,
happen first? Lance Stroll being replaced or GTA 6 arrival? I have no idea what GTA 6 is, but okay.
you don't?
I mean,
Oh
I know
no.
what GTA stands for, but I don't know if I've ever played one in
Oh, so
some.
GTA 6 is a game we've been waiting for the last 12 years now. It's going to be 13. Yeah. I think GTA 6 first, buddy. Not being sarcastic, but Lance, yeah, he has been good in the wet. He genuinely has been. But track time is a thing, and
So, and,
yeah,
and 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 I
he's
mean,
built upon that.
I'm not saying he's a bad driver, Lance.
No,
I'm just saying he's not what everyone's been paid to say, which is that he's world champion material and so on. And anyway, we're not going to spend the last few minutes talking about Lance. What else do we have? I have a question to stump you. I know we've done
okay.
11 teams. Who's going to be leading the FIA in 2026?
Oh my word, that is a great question, my friend. Do you? I'm sorry for forgetting the name of the competitor running against MBS. He's
Hmm.
a steward who MBS sacked unfairly, is what he claims, uh, which has some merit to it because it happened all so suddenly. But it's
Hmm.
very hard to rally a FIA president bid so quickly, isn't it? Unless a lot of people start voting against you. And MBS has been giving programs to a lot of good people. Like the FIA has been increasing their investment in the world of motorsport and doing lots of programs that that do lots of driver development. So I think it's going to be hard.
Tim Mayer is the
Tim
name.
Mayer.
And Pranav Carlos Sainz Senior is actually backed out of the race. Pankaj is saying Mohammed Ben Sulayem is going to continue leading the FIA, and I feel that the politics of F1 will mean that he will continue to lead the FIA as well. Pramit is asking, are you guys also streaming on Discord?
We should.
No,
I
we
think we
should.
should.
Okay, we should if you say
Yeah.
so. I mean,
Bit to
Michael
wait,
is saying
please.
anybody but MBS. Yes, I wish it was anybody but MBS. I really wish it was Carlos Sainz Sr., but I don't think we are going to see a change in that, and which actually keeps F1 on the tenterhooks. And I think Mohammed Ben Sulayem, before he goes, will actually give us the 12th team in Formula One, which could be a Chinese team, which is what he's going after. And all of this is so unfortunate because we had an Indian team, just that we couldn't make it survive when it was there. But yeah,
Yeah, too early for its time, I'd say. Yeah, too good, too good. But yeah, last thing to end this episode. If you're wondering why Carlos Sainz Sr. is backed out, well, his official reasoning is very hilarious. He said he wants to focus on Dakar. I see an excuse when I find one.
yeah. Well, I think he's better off racing. I think he's such an inspiration. Not to say he wouldn't be a good administrator, but losing the racer Carlos Sainz to the administrator Carlos Sainz, I think that's probably a race that the administrators already lost. I would say,
Yeah.
yeah. But another question: who do you think is going to be the next non F1 driver to drive a Formula One car? Brad Pitt drove one.
Oh.
Ayao Komatsu drove
Oh
one, Gene Haas
wow.
drove
That's a
one,
good
Christian Horner
question,
drove one,
man.
James Vowles drove one. I don't
What's
know.
next year? Are we celebrating an anniversary next year? Like, is it the 50 or 70 years of something or some team or anything? Because that's when it normally happens, right? At Goodwood, then they tend to have someone, or it's a demonstration run somewhere, or I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know. Maybe we should push the
I,
guys at Red Bull India to put KL Rahul in a Formula One car. Just putting it out there.
yeah, you
He's
never know.
he's been doing very well. He has good reaction times, as we've now found out. Check out the recent reel that Kunal has done on the Inside Line page. But yeah, maybe that's the way. Pranav, regulations. But yeah, I think that deserves a 1 hour episode on itself. It's an hour that we spent today,
But I
118.
think I think this whole talk of going back to old engines, while it seems very appealing as a fan, we've got to ask ourselves if the automotive industry is actually wanting to go down that road. And if it
Question:
is, then
does it matter what the automotive industry thinks at this point? Now that Formula One is very
it's
clearly entertainment.
well, it always does because they are the ones putting the millions and billions to run the sport and the show. And if cars are going towards electrification and hybrid tech and everything else, you can't be seen as running an old V8 engine, which is literally a tech of the old. Didn't you just say that you've been waiting 12 years, 13 years for GTA 6? Why? Because you're waiting for what's next in the world of GTA. It's the same thing. What's next in the world of automotive tech? And will Formula One,
Oh,
lead us there? Even if Formula One doesn't lead us there, we can't be seeing as having dinosaur technology. I mean, as much as I would love to have the gear stick back, I mean, you remember what Oliver Behrman and Alan Prost at Goodwood
oh
did.
yeah.
Oliver Behrman looks and saying, "Oh yeah, that's got three pedals," and you're like, "What? Cars have three pedals? What are you talking about?" So I realized one thing. Oliver Behrman was puzzled by how many pedals Alan Prost's car had, while I'm pretty sure Alan Prost is puzzled at how many buttons Oliver Behrman's car has.
Can we spend a minute more on this because it's a very good question, and I don't think I'll be able to sleep in peace without discussing it.
Let's go.
Uh, I think it tests the character of Formula One and how they see themselves if they choose to abandon the new upcoming regulations for V10s with hybrid fuels. As fans, we'd love it. For entertainment value, it'll be phenomenal too. The big question then becomes, as Kunal mentioned, does it fit in with the vision of all the automotive industries? But also, what Formula One stands for. It would put that character and put that identity into question, would it not, Kunal? That Formula One is the peak of engineering development, which is, in my opinion, why we love it. Great racing. If you want great racing, go to watch the MX5 Cup. Better. If you want more strategy, go to watch IMSA. If you want harder cars to drive physically, in terms of like shoulders and stuff, watch IndyCar. If you want more diverse circuits, watch IndyCar. We watch Formula One because they're the most technologically advanced race cars in the world. A big part of that. I think that's a big reason of the charm. Would that be the same with all V10s? Genuinely?
I mean, unless the world is going towards synthetic biofuel, zero petroleum, what we've been waiting in queue for Paddy Low for I think over a
Oh
year now,
yeah, over a
Soumil. Yeah,
year now. Over a
we'll
year
we'll
now.
probably write to him. But anyway, so I just think it's where the world seems to be going, and it's like if suddenly there was a car racing series with steam engines. Do you think it would be appealing to anyone? I don't think so. But as we bring this to a close, who's had a better 2025 or improved pace for 2025? Stake, Alex Albon, Isaac Hadjar, or I think I think all of them in their own ways, right? Because all of them are improved. Stake definitely with, I don't know why I call it Stake. It's always Sauber, but anyway, with the floor upgrades with Matteo Binotto and Jonathan Wheatley and several others doing their magic. Albon, I think Williams cooling problems have gotten to him. They've had some, three retirements in the last four races. Isaac Hadjar, what a wonderful rookie to have.
Yeah.
And while he's got the headlines, I think Bortoletto's got the data to prove that he's also had a phenomenal season. And Punkit is saying electrification is actually worse for the environment. Battery tech requires rare earth metals rather, for development, which in turn increase mining, which is also true.
Yeah.
And again, let's not make this a debate, but I appreciate that.
Well,
And then,
let's make this a debate on a different episode.
yeah,
Is what we
okay,
mean by that.
maybe we get an expert to talk about it. Why not?
Paddy low.
Okay, could there be a complete change in the fuel tech? You never know if that's the direction Formula One wants to go in. Formula One will go there, and lots of power unit manufacturers recognize that for 2026 already, the power delivery and the power outputs could actually see, could actually see what the fuel provider is able to bring on as well. And I think this is what I love, and this is why I think having a tire war would also be great in Formula One. Not
Yes.
saying that we should go there. I know there's a lot of things, but if there are different fuel suppliers trying to maximize performance, why not?
That's why the mid 2000s were so good. Different tire manufacturers. Did they have different fuel manufacturers as well? Like, no, did they? I don't.
Yeah,
I can't.
of
They
course.
did.
Yeah, there's Mobile One, there's Castrol, there is Shell. So
Shell.
there
Yeah.
have been different manufacturers. Even now, there are different fuel manufacturers, right?
We just don't pay as much attention to it, but that's a great story to track too. If you really love your nerdy side of Formula One. But okay. Time, please. We need to go. Although this is, I can't tell you how grateful we are for the fact that all of you are commenting. We need to be respectful for the audiences who are also going to be watching back retroactively, and they'll be
Sawmill is basically
scared.
just saying, guys, it's what's the time in India? 124.
I could go on.
I know you
My
could.
thinking. I'm an
I'm
addict
remembering
for.
Sarang, our producer, like, guys, didn't I say wrap up in 35, 37 minutes? What have you all just done an hour and 8 minute long episode? Okay, time to go.
Yeah, no, Pranav, you're not letting me. And thank you for all the kind comments, Pranav. We want to discuss Formula One with you guys more often. So subscribe to the Inside Line F1 podcast. Click the bell notification, share the video, make sure you're updated with whatever we do. We might be off schedule at times because life is busy. We're both working. In fact, all three of us are working in the sport. So we it's hard to tell when we're going to be there, but when we are, we will spend time with you guys and actively engage, which is what we love to do. But Pranav, thanks for this. Just one last question. This is the first time I'll be following the Indian Racing League this year. What should I look out for? Buddy, welcome to the circus. I'm glad you finally joined in. Uh the Indian Racing League this year is going to be a lot about mixing teams and drivers. Very successful combinations have been broken up. Watch for how everyone adapts to the new team. Watch for the quality of the female drivers. There are some really good ones. Fabian Wolven is incredible. Watch for how our Indian drivers are able to adapt to the levels of drivers like John Lancaster and Neil Jani, who have raced globally and have been paid to be professional drivers. Drivers like Ruhan Alva and Sohil Shah, just to name a few. And watch for the circuits. We might be going to a very, very interesting location this time out. Not just one, I think two interesting locations. And if you have enjoyed listening to me and Kunal, watch for me on the broadcast. I'm going to be there as well this time. Contract's not been signed, but I'll make it a point to be there. So we'll that'll be a lot of fun. But yes, thank you for following along, guys. Thank you, Pranav, Shitman, Viraj, Manny, Punkit, Michael as well in the middle.
Various people. Thank you. It's
Thank you.
been a joy,
Exoteric,
and there's a
Krishna.
lot of content planned for next week already. So see you guys.
See you guys. Now, goodbye for you. Take care. Bye bye.